Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
Trust in Allah, but tie up your camel.
This is episode 173, recorded September 28th, 2022.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Doc Rotten, and this is a podcast about horror films released between 1970 and 1979. Each episode, my co-host Jeff Mohr and I will tackle another. I'm screwing it up, and I own it. We'll tackle another classic or not so classic film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. Joining me this week is my co-host Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, and I know you've been really busy, Doc. But I was thinking maybe you should take up some hashish because those that enjoy hashish are more apiece.
I could use some more.
Never mind. I stole that.
You did, but that's okay. I like it. Let's keep going.
Didn't work.
Tell me more. Tell me more. All right. Also joining us tonight is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, special effects guru, and all around nice guy. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing okay, but you can see from my advanced age, I have been working the dark arts, making homunculus to do chores around the house and stuff.
That explains a lot. That explains a lot.
They painted my bathroom wall, though. Good job.
Yes.
We need to find you a gold thingy that you can throw in a pond.
Oh, yeah.
First we got to find the pond. All right, we are going to review The Golden Voyage of Sinbad from 1973. Yes, Harryhausen monsters and Sinbad.
And Carolyn Monroe.
And Carolyn Monroe and the Good Doctor. And there might be a very hidden gruff Quint in this, but we'll figure that out later.
If that doesn't sound like entertainment to you, you need to shut off this podcast and go listen to a podcast about sad, broken lives, because clearly you've led one.
Sad, broken lives.
Yeah.
Oh, that's between the lines. That's the context of what we're doing tonight. All right. I'm excited about this, actually. And Bill, you've been talking about this film for quite some time. Sinbad battles the creatures of legend in the miracle of Dinorama. Of course, we love Ray Harryhausen. And this is a return to Sinbad, and he would do that again later in the 70s. So this is going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. But let's take a look at the card, and then we'll dive into our thoughts. I got to scroll way up through all these images and get to the card. There we go. The Golden Voyage of Sinbad from 1973, directed by Gordon Hessler. Surprise. Written by Brian Clemens from a story Ray Harryhausen. Cast includes John Philip Law, Carolyn Monroe, Tom Baker, and Douglas Wilmer, Kurt Christian, Martin Shaw, and Robert Shaw. You will not recognize him, but he is in there. And the release date was 12/20/1973 in London and January 25th, 1974 in UK. Where's the US? I don't know.
It was later in the 74. It's hard to call this a 74 movie. It was out for 10 days in one place.
Or you mean a 73 movie? I don't know.
73, yeah.
The budget is somewhere between 1 and 2 million. We'll call it 1.5. The box office was 11 to 15 million. 37 in tickets overseas. What were you going to say, sir?
Well, the information on that was crazy. I mean, IMDb said $900,000 budget, and I think Wikipedia said less than 2 million. Well, okay, how much? And then the same with the box office stuff. I think IMDb said 11 million, and then Ultimate Movie Ranking said 15.6 million.
But then the 37 million overseas is a completely different thing and would boost that number up by quite a bit.
One would think, because those are definitely domestic numbers, the 11 to 15.
I like this German title. Bill, do you want to go at saying it?
Sinbad's Geflackenflach Abenteuer. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Gefährliche Abenteuer. Yes.
There you
go.
Well. also known as Sinbad's Dangerous Adventures, which isn't a bad title. Although I like the Golden Voyage better.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm jaded because I grew up with Golden Voyage of Sinbad. But anyway,
almost
Sinbad.
all of the titles. Sorry.
The synopsis of Sinbad and the vizier of Marabia, followed by the evil magician Koura, seek the 3 golden tablets that will gain them access to the ancient temple of the Oracle of all knowledge.
Oh. Wow.
Shocking. You don't know anything about shocking, he will say. I'm having too much fun with the fact that Robert Charlton is. All right.
Yeah.
Of course, we got visual effects by Ray Harryhausen, along with Roy Field and Vic Margutti, and Antonio Baquero and Manuel Baquero. Good for them. Good stuff. But what we need to know is, when did we first see this film, and what was our first impression? And Bill, sir, you were up first. This was your selection. Yeah. Look, he has a Harryhausen creature effect right there.
Yes, look at this. Yes, just
stop motion
cat. Yeah, so lifelike. It's almost real.
Yes, it looks so natural.
Well, this seriously is one of the most influential films in my life. I saw it when it came out. I remember watching the ads on TV, the motion picture miracle of Dinorama. And I believe I was aware, I'm pretty positive I was aware of who Harryhausen was from famous Monsters of Filmland and everything. But here was my chance to actually see one in the theater. I didn't have a chance to see Guanji and the others, I was too young. So I ran out to see it as soon as I could and was just blown away by everything about it. And this was not the movie that made me fall in love with movies, but it is the movie, I think, that made me fall in love with movie making. Because this is, most people, after this film, I had to seek out, there were fanzines, really good ones like FXRH and Close Up Magazine that were very small press, just really intelligent, devoted to stop motion and Harryhausen in particular. And, at the time, a lot of people loved movies and had movie heroes, and they would either be actors or, if they were a little more hip, directors. My hero was Ray Harryhausen. So, that was it. I was more interested in the process of movie making than sometimes the movies themselves. So, I was there. I could not believe how cool everything was and just how great it looked. And this was just so entertaining. I loved this movie then, and I love it now. It was a little hard to find for a while. When I got a Super 8 projector, a sound Super 8 projector as a Christmas present, one of the first things I got was the little Super 8 sound and color, which was rare and expensive, of Golden Voyage of Sinbad. It was basically the Kali fight and the ending. They just tacked on. As soon as Kali was done, all of a sudden, hey, there's the golden thing, and we stick it in. There's a crown, and so they edited the movie harshly. But I watched that frame by frame. I put it in an editor and went frame by frame to study how I know that scene more than I probably know any other scene in movie history.
Wow,
I wanted to see how he did it. So yeah, this is a huge movie for me. And thankfully, I'm glad to say, because it's been a few years since I saw it, it does hold up. It does hold up. Because sometimes those movies you love from your childhood don't always, when you watch it, yikes. And it's not perfect, but I was aware of its imperfections even back then, because like I said, I really studied this and I read a lot of reviews, and some of the reviews weren't even very kind. But yeah, this movie, this is the one. This really is. I got to put it up there right on a pedestal. This is what made me, for better or worse, the man I am today.
Wow, this is a landmark film for you then.
Yes, it is.
No wonder you've been chomping at the bit to get this one on the show.
Yep.
Wow. I'm impressed, sir.
Thank you.
Jeff, how do you follow that? When did you first see this film, and what was your first impression?
I don't remember. I saw it. I did not see it at the theater. But I find this to be, I think this is my favorite one of the ones I've seen. What's the first Sinbad movie?
Seventh Voyage of Sinbad.
Seventh Voyage, yeah. And Clash of the Titans, and Valley of Guanji. This is just a really good movie. I think this is a far better movie than Clash of the Titans or the other ones that I mentioned. and the at least in terms of being engrossed in the story, the stop motion animation is seamless. It doesn't pull you out at all. It just looks. I just bought it all the way through, and of course, Carol Monroe and Tom Baker's great.
Oh yeah,
great. Tom Baker is great. Yes.
So yeah, I like this a lot. I kind of liked. I mean, of course, Cully that sequence is great, but I kind of like the. I forget what they called her, but the ship's maidenhead when it comes to
the
life.
siren. Yeah, she's great.
And the sound effects that went with it too was like wood creaking, whereas like with Kali, the sound effects was like stones clicking together and swords clanking. I thought the sound effects were cool. So yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of it. So far, this is my favorite one of those adventure type stop motion animation films.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Harryhausen. Even though I always say because of King Kong, and that's Brian Willis. No, that's
Willis O'Brien.
Willis O'Brien. I had the right names. I just did Doc Rotten on him. But of course, he was involved with that. He just wasn't right, wasn't he?
No, he worked with Willis O'Brien on Mighty Joe Young.
Mighty Joe Young. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that was 2 films later. All right. I'm a little, but I love all his work. What's the Ymir, right?
20 million miles.
20 million miles.
And didn't he do some stuff in Dr. Lau?
No, that was Jim Danforth.
That was Jim Danforth. Oh wow! So I know shit about it. But anyway,
the problem is I know way too much about stop motion animation.
Well, we did
more than is healthy.
One of his first ones on his own was Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Yeah, and I love that one too. And
classic era, and that's a good one.
Which gave us Godzilla. I mean, that's a great movie.
I love monster films. I love the kaiju films, and I love these stop motion monster films. I guess it's the real point I'm trying to do, and I kind of associate stop motion with Harryhausen, no matter who does it. And I think that's a lot of people, even though it's wrong. He doesn't do all of it. But you mentioned Valley of Gwangi, and I love that film. That's my favorite. I don't know why I love that film so much, but I absolutely do. 1 million years BC. There's another one, right?
Yeah.
But this one is one of the first ones I saw in the theater as well. I'm trying to remember if I saw it first run though. I would have been 9, and I believe I would have seen it. My mom and I would go see movies all the time. She would want to go out on weekends and she would take me to movies, and I'd go see the strangest movies with her. And I'm pretty certain I saw this movie. I remember this. I remember seeing this movie as a kid, and I'm pretty sure it was in the theater. And yeah, I was totally blown away. As I grew older, I felt like, okay, I got the impression that it was silly. Somehow, as I got older, I felt it was silly. I haven't really revisited since probably early 80s. I haven't really revisited, or whenever I might have caught it on like Turner Classic Movies once or something, but I haven't really revisited it with any purpose, right? Just kind of casual. So seeing it this past weekend, you are absolutely right, Bill Mulligan. This movie really holds up well. The special effects, even though I know the tricks, are so well woven into this film, and they are handled so well. Even if you can see the seams, right? It still holds up really well. And flaws aside, the story's fun. The villain's really cool. The concept's interesting, and the creatures are interesting and far different than many others, right? I thought this was going to be a chore. I'll admit, Bill, but I was having a great time with this movie.
I'm so
happy. I had such a good
great.
time.
Excellent.
And I think it may have awoken, or reawoken in this case, my love for these type of movies. And now I'm like itching to go see more. I've probably watched Clash of the Titans far more than I would like have. So I don't know if I'll revisit that one. I mean, it's good for different reasons. But I definitely, oh man, I'd love to go back and do the earlier ones, the black and white ones, and then the ones from the 60s and stuff like that again. So
now, unfortunately, the very next one, Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, and one day we'll have to do that. And I think the main thing will be what went wrong, because it's like the same team, not the same actors. Maybe that's part of the problem, but basically the same production team, and it just doesn't look as good. This has such a lush quality. This really, it's hard to believe the budget was as small as it was. Now, yeah, I know this is $1973, but even for that, that's a low budget for a movie that looks as good as this does.
Yeah. I know I saw the next one too, as well in the theaters, Eye of the Tiger, and then of course, I always think of the song now, but but I'm eager to see that one again, because for some reason I remember it more fondly than this one. But I suspect that when it comes back around, I'll be in your camp. That this one,
we'll see. Yeah. You never, the films like this, especially, obviously, even if this movie stunk, it has such a big part of my life that I would love it regardless. And I'm sure there's people who feel the same way about God Monster of Indian Flats. God help them. But I'm glad to see. No, it does still hold up, and it because everything you said is right. It has a good story. The stop motion sequences, and this isn't always true for every Harryhausen movie, don't feel like they're ball peened in, like, okay, it's been 15 minutes. We better give them what they came for. They actually have something to do with the story. Kali, the statue of Kali, it makes sense. First, he makes her dance, and that impresses the natives. And then he's, in trouble. So he has her fight. There's a reason. It's not like, she just walks out, opens up the door, and there she is fighting Sinbad. And that's kind of true for some of the other Harryhausen movies, where you really do feel like, okay, come on, let's put something in here. I love the mythic quality. I mean, you've got a centaur, a really interesting interpretation of a centaur. You've got a griffin. You've got the statue, the siren. I agree. The siren sequence is really good, and it's well filmed. It takes place at night. She has this otherworldly quality to her, the fact that she's a statue, and yet you read emotion into what she's doing, even though her face is completely immobile. It's really, really well done. And it's got a few of those tricks that only Harryhausen could pull off, like the guy throwing the axe into her chest. And that's another one where you're like, okay, can I slow this down to see where the real axe became the fake axe? How they did this.
Or did he ever throw an axe? Was it always fake? Right?
Yeah, if you look at the first axe hit is using a real axe, which is smart. And then the second one is the fake one. But having established, we've seen him use a real axe. Now, when the fake one takes over, we're more willing to accept it. He was very, very smart. He was smart. He was a magician.
Well, the lighting is pretty amazing there too, because it's nighttime, right? Do I remember that correctly? It's nighttime.
Yeah.
And the only part about that I thought was a little funny, and it's totally correct.
Go ahead.
But
I'll bet you.
When it falls in the water, when it falls back and falls in the water, it just kind of boring.
Well, and also it doesn't the fake hand and everything. One of the flaws of this movie is that they didn't really pay much attention to when they switched in, like when Kali is fighting, she's got very distinctive swords. And then when they show the close-ups of like Sinbad fighting off the swords, and they have somebody with green makeup on their hand, the swords don't look remotely like her. And you might say, Bill, no one would notice that. And I repeat again, I watched this frame by frame. So, yeah.
One of the greatest things is Prince Koura, right? Played by Tom Baker. And did I read right that this basically got him the role as Doctor Who?
Yeah, they liked him. They liked what they saw here, and I don't blame him. He's great. He chews up the scenery, but he's terrific. And a good villain. You need a good villain. Seventh Voyage had a good villain, and this, I think he does great here. And he has little touches, like when he throws the sword to Kali, and suddenly she's got a bunch of swords, and Sinbad's like, the fuck? And then they cut to Koura, and he's just like smiling, like, look what I just did.
Yep.
That's right. That's who you're messing with. Well, I've done my thing. Off you go. He's like an uncle who comes in, gives the kids a whole bunch of sugar pixie sticks, and then, well, my job is done. Off he goes. Now you got to deal with the little brats.
Yeah. And it's funny is that what outside of the monsters themselves, right? Because you remember all the monsters that we're mentioning. what I remember the most besides that, unfortunately, it's not Carolyn Monroe because I was 9. But I should have known when I was 9. But here, for some reason, it's the red when the invisible version of him goes into the fountain and dies.
Yeah.
And then the fountain turns red. That stuck with me. And as soon as I saw that fountain, I was like, oh man, I can't wait for the go red. And I forgot about the whole invisible version of him, which took a while to become invisible. That was really interesting, where he was like some
Sinbad
invisible.
should have been hacking away at that point, but
I know, but I thought it was really cool. It's like you could see his shadow inside the fountain, and then boop.
Yeah, that was kind of a dumb move on his part, but that was a great shot, and the red coming out, which is good because you might think, boy, that's kind of a gutsy move to have the final sequence not be a stop motion sequence. Usually the Harryhausen, they end with like the skeleton fight or the dragon and versus the Cyclops, but this one ends with that. But that's because they knew they had such a good villain. It was okay. That's what we wanted to see. It was like, stop motion's great, but this son of a bitch got to get his comeuppance here. So,
and then we had the king guy, whatever his name is. Is he the Grand Visor?
Yeah.
And he has that metal face,
right,
that he wears the entire time. I was like, man, could they not afford an actor? Stunt man running around, but the crown fit perfectly on that.
It fit perfectly, like it was made to be there. It's like,
which was awesome.
And a good message for the kids too. It's like, what really is wealth really the most important thing, and having to rule people and everything else, when on the other hand you could sail around the world with Carolyn Monroe. Good choice, Sinbad.
It was a good choice for Sinbad. Yeah, for Sinbad it's a good choice because he'll find his treasure elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
But her role is like, outside of what her palm means, is kind of embarrassing. Her role.
Well, she's there to look beautiful, and she does that very well. And
it's now the guy that she ends up getting brought on board with. What is his name? Is that Ratchet, or is it Harn?
Ratchet.
I don't know the name of the character.
Oh, was it Hassan? Let me see.
Hang on, I can find it out here.
Well, Ratchet is the guy that was Sinbad's first mate, kind of.
Yeah, that was a right.
No, so it was Harn.
This is Hakeem, right? No, not Hakeem.
No, it was Harn.
Haru,
yeah. Kurt Christian.
Kurt Christian, yes.
Yeah, who we've seen before. We've seen him in what was the one we watched?
Horror Hospital.
Was that him? Oh my gosh!
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking I'd seen him before, and I couldn't figure out where, and we haven't gotten to that point here in the show. But I thought he was so funny.
Yeah, comedy relief. That's actually funny. That's a
and he wasn't a buffoon. He actually
he comes through. Yeah.
He comes through. He earns his place on Sinbad's ship.
I really like that element of it, and I don't know. I guess I'm saying that it really does hold up, and I thank you, sir.
Oh, I'm so glad you had a good time.
Excellent.
So let's go ahead and take a look at the posters. Here, I'll switch, and
that's a darn good poster right there. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, look how big the tagline is. You're in a good poster when the tagline.
And I like how they kept pushing the miracle of Dynarama. Now, Dynarama was just Dynamation,
right? It got renamed.
But they renamed it. And I will say this one certainly more than Gwangi. I love Gwangi, but you could see that color can be a problem with stop motion. Like Gwangi is that amazing shade of purple that makes no sense. It's not all, when you're filming models in front of a screen, getting the colors to match up in the foreground, everything else can be very tricky. And I think they did a better job on this one. They did an excellent job. But it's the same process he'd been using since Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. There was nothing new.
Well, just to clarify my statement, I love the stop motion scenes in Gwangi and Clash of the Titans as well. I just don't think they're very well told movie stories. I didn't like the story around it. We talked a lot about that on our 80s edition, Clash of the Titans. And we did Valley of Gwangi with Classic Era. And the characters just do some really dumb stuff,
Yeah.
But it's cool. Cowboys and Dinosaurs is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And again, every Harryhausen movie, almost every Harryhausen movie, has that one standout sequence that you're just like, wow. And
but
for
this one, I think
it was the roping. But.
Yeah, for this one, I think it's just a better all-around movie in all areas. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Now, one thing I was interested in finding out is that he did the special effects for 1 million years BC, but he didn't do the other dinosaur movies for Hammer.
No, well, the only other one that had dinosaurs was When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, and they couldn't get Harryhausen, so they got Jim Danforth. And I think that has some of the best, the smoothest animation that's ever been done. It's an interesting thing. I love Jim Danforth's animation, but there's something about Harryhausen that his characters, his creatures have personality, which even when they shouldn't have any, like the siren, like the homunculus, they had fairly immobile faces. But he's able to do stuff with body language that's just marvelous. And I don't know, that just comes through. But Danforth was a brilliant animator, still with us today. And I think he's largely retired. He also was a great matte painter, too. I mean, Harryhausen was not the greatest special effects artist of all time, although he really was, because he's the only one I can think of who...
Now, this is his artwork, right?
This is his artwork. He was a good artist, and you went to see a Harryhausen movie because it was Harryhausen. That was it. How many other special effects guys, as good as John Dykstra was or something, nobody talked about going to see a John Dykstra movie. They talked about going to see a movie that he was in, and it was going to be better for him being in it. But Harryhausen movies were Harryhausen movies. I mean, look at how close it came to you. Look at that middle shot. They went with more of a stone goddess than the metal one they have there, but that basic shot is right out of the film. I think even the statue they have is, and I love the sets. The sets are great. Beautiful. So this is, they're showing on the bottom there. Originally the centaur was going to fight a caveman, a troglodyte, and they decided against that, but they did keep that idea because in the next movie, probably the best thing in it is the troglodyte, who's got a, really, really well done.
So who are the purple guys?
Well, they're green, right? Weren't they green?
They were, they're green.
Now,
you're thinking of the Oompa Loompas.
Oompa Loompas. I have a question for you. Were they always green? Because I have a feeling that that's something. I don't remember them being green.
I think they were. You think they were brown and they made them green to be less? No, I think they were always green. I believe so.
Okay, because you could see where they were. The color was matted onto them. Right, because you can see the outlines around that. Anyway, I think that might have been my attention.
I think that might have been a problem if your characters are green and they're acting in front of a green screen. You're going to have some problems there.
Ah, well, there you go.
Some of the matte work in this is a little dodgy, but that up at the top there, that is Charles Schneer, the producer, and the younger guy with the shirt off is Gordon Hessler.
Oh wow! And who's the two in the middle?
The two in the middle is Harryhausen wearing the cowboy hat, yippee-ki-yay, and that guy there is a great matte painter whose name escapes me, but he contributed a lot of the matte paintings that I think really boosted the production value here. And the bottom is Schneer and Harryhausen looking through the camera.
And that's the matte painting of the city that they sailed to, and that looked great. It looked like a set. It did. I mean,
it's not Emilio Ruiz del Rio.
It might be. That might be right.
It says he's the matte artist. That's uncredited, but there's a lot of people in the art department. So
I put this in here to kind of show how Dinorama works. So they film, and you can only imagine how difficult this must have been. You film a bunch of actors swinging their swords and stopping, to make it look like they're hitting a sword that isn't there. Then you put your puppet there and animate it looking through the camera. How do you do this? I don't know. Look through the camera, go there, animate these little minuscule things, keeping track on what each arm is doing. And there's 6 of them to match this background. You've matted out the foreground. You've matted out the part of the background, and then you sandwich that back on top. So now it looks like the statue is actually in the middle of the scene instead of being in front of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be a genius to make this work. Those are when we say they don't make movies like that anymore. They can't, because there's no one who has that level of expertise to pull something like this off.
It might be patience too, because it seems like it's so time consuming.
How many frames a day do you think he managed to get out of something like this? It'd be probably, if he got half a second a day, it's only because he didn't break for lunch. I mean, it's I couldn't keep track of it.
I would say the closest thing we get nowadays are the the stop motion little animated characters that we get. Caroline is a film. There's a Wendell movie coming out on Netflix.
But when you see those movies, and I'm not taking anything away from how good those films are, they're great. But at the end, when they run the credits and they show you who animated all these things,
100 of them.
It's like the nation of Taiwan. It's incredible how many.
Right.
And I think that's one of the unique things is this was no movie's a one-man show, but the animation effects were a one-man show. Harryhausen, he was very secretive until later on. Didn't want people to know how he did these things. This was just it. It was him, 100% him. And that gives you a sort of continuity that you're not going to get when it's made by committee. There's the siren. She's great.
Yeah. And so what I was, this reinforces what I was thinking, is that, the lighting is what sold this one for me, because it has such strong lighting from one direction. And that really helps tie the two images together, where like some of the other ones we're going to see, they have lighting from all over the place. So.
Right. Yeah, he knew how to use good lighting. I mean, this sort of reminds me in some ways of the Medusa sequence, and just how that sequence was just so masterful because of that lighting. And that's not easy to pull off, because if you're taking a long time to animate these things, if you've got low-key lighting and mood and everything else, if it's taking you a week or two to animate this sequence and one of the lights burns out, or maybe one day burns brighter, how you keep track of everything? And you're shooting on film too, so there's no like rewinding it and seeing how the video turned out. I mean, you send it off to be developed and it comes back and you're like, oh crap, there's my hand. There's my hand in one of the frames.
Yeah, I was thinking, wasn't there something where you could see like a thumb or something in somebody's shot? But anyway, that might be another movie.
Jeff, you mentioned the sound effects. Yeah, when she tears herself off of the mast, that really sold it.
Yeah.
Well, and when she's also just walking on the ship, it's like old planks creaking and stuff. I thought
I did notice
when Kali is going. Yeah, it's more crunch and like
I did notice one bit though, when you look at the siren, she's up on top of the stairs, and you're like, how is she going to get down the stairs? And they don't show it. They cut to some other stuff, and then they cut back to her, and she's down there. It's kind of like Dracula getting out of his coffin. There's no dignified way to actually get out of a coffin and not
suddenly becomes very nimble.
Yes. She jumped.
Kali, and this really is amazing. This character here,
absolutely amazing. Now, if you want to nitpick, if you want to be that guy who studies things frame by frame, you'll notice that the ground she's standing on,
just a hair lighter,
lighter than the other. It's like I say, it's difficult. But look at that middle shot. I mean, you would not believe that she's standing in front of all this stuff. He managed to really get her in there and make it look like she's part of it. And the one shot I had to study, because it's like I watched this movie. I swear I saw the sword go through this guy, and I know that's not possible because he's not standing in front of her. I watch it frame by frame, and the one shot where she actually, I think, maybe kills someone, the sword goes into him. So Harryhausen must have matted it out or cut the sword so that it actually looked like when it hits his body, suddenly it disappears into his body. I'm guessing he probably matted it out or something, but I don't know. That's that little thing. It's subliminal. It didn't have to be in there. But then he didn't have to have a 6-armed statue. He did this to himself.
He did this to himself. Yeah. I love that. He did that to himself.
The homunculus.
Yeah.
I like that scene where he gives it life. And it's just some good character. The creature's like, it's just been born. It's afraid. Its motions remind me very, very much of 20 Million Miles to Earth, when the Ymir is first hatched out of the egg, that here's this little creature in this big world.
Too. Yeah.
And it also gives Koura a chance to, show some characterization too, when he's sort of like, kind of playing with it a little bit.
Yeah. And isn't that where we get the first really clear picture of him aging because of it?
Yeah.
Because this little handyman guy goes, look at yourself. Look at the hole you're taking.
Yeah.
There's the
there's a
Griffin.
price. I will say these are not, the Griffin is probably my least favorite model in the bunch because I don't know, those feathers just sort of look, clearly it couldn't fly. And originally the plan was for this battle to be, I think, more impressive with the Griffin flying and like strafing attacks against it. But I think they say they just didn't have the money to do it. But also there's no way I would have believed that this thing was flying. With
Maybe not.
But strangely, I really liked that battle. It felt it was more emotional for me. I felt something for the Griffin. We knew Griffin. Mm-hmm. The Griffin was the good guy, and I
Yeah, and they cheated. The Koura cheated. And look at that shot at the bottom. I mean, that's some great stuff there.
Right there, yeah, down there. Yeah. There's that fountain. There's my fountain.
Good versus evil, represented by monsters with a cool exotic background, and a bad guy with a sword. I mean, yeah, this is some good stuff here.
And there's the centaur.
Yeah.
Which is, well, it's also a Cyclops centaur.
He's a Cyclops centaur, and he's got like that weird leprosy skin, which is a good move. One of the problems with stop motion models, if you make the skin look too human or something, it kind of looks like a doll. So the centaurs and the Cyclopses and everything, they always have this kind of nasty looking skin, but I think it works great. You know what's interesting about this character though? The way he moves. He doesn't walk like a horse. He walks like a man dragging a horse behind him.
Yeah.
Which, like the first time I was watching, it's like, okay, this seems odd. Now I know Harryhausen can animate a horse because he did it in Guanji. This is a deliberate choice to show the dichotomy of this character by having it not be half man, half horse. It's more like man, horse. It's interesting. It's an interesting.
Or like man
choice.
with a horse hindquarters.
Yeah,
horse butt.
I almost get the feeling like this guy was cursed. Like once he was human, and now he's been cursed to be this creature, and always fighting the animal part in him. I don't know, but it's a cool sequence, and boy, Sinbad really goes to town on him with that dagger.
Yes.
And it sells it too. Like you feel it. He's like, oh, that hurt. Mofo, come on. Stabbing him in the neck there with a. Yeah. He's cool.
Very much.
He's got the eyes for Carolyn Monroe, and
the eye.
He's got the eye.
He's got the eye.
Man.
Of course,
got an eye for him too, right?
Yeah. Of course, they made a comic.
They did.
Marvel Comics did the adaptation in Worlds Unknown.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
No, it's got a great Gil Kane cover though. Look at that.
It does. That's a cool cover. I've got that. I've got it somewhere. Of course I do. And I think the thing that really struck me is how they rush through everything. I think it might have been two issues.
I think I read.
Yeah, they rush through it. The final battle between the Griffin and the Centaur is, I think, a page, not even a full page.
Right, probably just a couple panels, right?
Yeah, come on, guys.
Well, they did Killdozer next, so hey, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right, so Gordon Hessler, we should talk about him. We've mentioned him before. We've covered other films from Gordon Hessler.
I don't know why I forgot to make a Gordon Hessler thing, because I have weird feelings about Gordon Hessler. I feel like I should like his stuff more than I do. But the stuff I do like of his is really good. And even the stuff I don't like, you read the backstory and it's like, they called me up the weekend before they started the movie and I had to jump in there. Like, well, then, damn, maybe it's about as good as it could be.
Yeah.
I think he did a fine job on this. I think this is one of the best directed. I mean, you're in a Harryhausen movie. No one's going to call this a Gordon Hessler film.
Oh, that's probably true, yeah. But of course, he did Kiss Me, the Phantom in the Park. And Chad would want to talk about that if we was here.
But you know what? That's where I could say Gordon Hessler was a hack. But I'm thinking Stanley Kubrick and the Ghost of Kurosawa could not have made that.
Yeah, that might be true.
Watching,
no way. Might be true.
Well, I know we've done other films. Well, he did a Night Stalker episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did Cry the Banshee.
Yes, and
we did that one.
Scream and Scream Again.
Which we haven't done Scream and Scream Again yet, have we? I'll be interested to look at that.
Murders in the Rue Morgue. We haven't done that. Oblong Box.
Oblong Box. Most of the movies, when I've read interviews and everything, he talks about the studio interference and how they took like Murders in the Rue Morgue and just completely butchered it and everything. And the one film that didn't seem to have any interference was Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and that turned out to be a fine film. So maybe there's something to be said. This guy was just one of those ones that just had a run of bad luck.
Well, he's probably like one of those guys you could depend on, right? You know, you could get him into, you know, if something happened, you bring him in.
Yeah.
And he does the work. It kind of like
what's that? The original director committed suicide? Get Gordon Hessler.
Oh dear God, yes.
He's got 2 weeks to do this. He doesn't have time to make any changes or have anything other than just say action and cut. And so no, it's not going to really have any kind of individual stamp. So I don't know.
But he does the work. He does the work. He does.
Yeah, well, he's got, you know, during that about 20 years, he's got 47 credits. So he's working every year, a couple things every year.
Yep. So we have a little bit about Brian Clemens, the writer.
He did 2 movies that we've done, Captain Kronos and Dr. Jekyll and Ms.
Hyde. Oh, have we done Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde already?
Did we do that? Dr. Jekyll.
We did not. We did not.
We haven't.
We need to do that one.
Oh, I must have
don't think so.
I feel like I've done this on a podcast, but I guess it may have been a different one, or maybe it was a panel. Maybe it was one of the Hammer panels.
You do so much, sir.
Yeah, and my mind is like a sieve, so it all leaks out. I just wanted to mention that shot at the bottom there. He wrote a bunch of the Avengers TV show with Emma Peel. And that's the Hellfire Club episode. That is Rower. She is just ravishing. Diana Rigg. Oh my God. Yeah.
He also did And Soon to Darkness from 1970, See No Evil from 71, which And Soon to Darkness has been remade here recently. Like you said, Captain Kronos. He did quite a few of the Thriller.
Speaking of
from
what's that? What's that
UK.
there? Oh, Avengers.
My Avengers box set.
Man, she was really something.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And he directed.
He's actually why Carolyn Monroe got the part. Is that correct?
Oh wow.
Didn't I read something about how?
Let me see. I think you may be right.
He also wrote a Disney film.
Okay. Oh, really? Oh, Watcher in the Woods.
Watcher in the Woods. You know
that mess. That mess. Ugh.
Yeah, but that's a film that was Disney. I mean, that's when they were trying to make more adult films because they what was it the Black Hole. They did the Black Hole. Yeah. And that was supposed to be, that was supposed to be a serious, but yet it had like the little kitty robots in it.
Disney got to that stage where they were kind of like Ladder Hammer, where the stuff they were doing wasn't working and they were trying to come up with a new direction. And unlike Hammer, Disney finally figured it out and survived. Hammer never did.
Well, so Clemens, it's interesting because Captain Kronos was actually filmed before this.
Oh, wow.
Didn't come out till after this, but Clemens kept pushing Schneer for Monroe for the part in Sinbad, and they kept saying they wanted a bigger name, you know, to attract an American audience or whatever, and he kept saying, I think you should come and look at the rushes, and finally got him to come and look at it, and they went, yeah, okay.
Yep, there we go. We were wrong. Yeah, we're big enough to admit we were wrong. Because they said they wanted someone who had sex appeal, but also this is a kid's movie, a G-rated movie. And you know, she's perfect because she's not given a lot to do, but she has an innocence about her, which is kind of amazing because that's the sweatiest cleavage I think that has ever been put on film.
Oh, and it looks like it's just about to spring loose too in several scenes. I'm sorry.
Okay, so listen to this. Now, this is a rumor that I can't confirm, but supposedly, if you have the old VHS tape, that when they land on the shore and Sinbad lifts her off, that there is a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction. For like 2 frames, which don't go. I know right now people have abandoned the podcast and they are running off to their DVD player to forget it because they digitally altered it so that it's not there anymore. Or maybe this is just horse crap and the Mandela effect, and I don't know. But
it might be, or it might be a segue to somebody who was in another film with wardrobe malfunctions. Barbarella. Let's talk about John Philip Law.
Yeah, never mind. I was just going to add that Schneer had actually called this G-rated sex appeal.
There you go.
Yeah, it works.
He was actually quoted as calling it that.
G-rated sex appeal.
He's my favorite Sinbad. I mean, I know people love Corwin Matthews from Seventh Voyage, and but this guy, I think this guy has the right balance of kind of jaunty self-confidence, and he's a good guy. We do that save the cat thing pretty early on, where we establish
save the cat thing.
Yeah,
Sinbad,
absolutely.
Yeah. When he gets this slave girl, all right. And this is in a time when, you could have your slave girl do whatever you want. He's like, no, whoa. There's no slaves on this boat. You're free. Yeah, what the heck?
Yeah.
And she's like taken aback, like, what? So we established he's a good man.
And he's got that good-natured quips, even with the Kirk Christian character, Harun, or Haran, or whatever his name was, that he's always slacking off, and
his men
gets
love
on him,
him.
but he gives them
They'll follow him to the ends of the earth. I mean, he's just a natural leader. And I don't know, reading some of the interviews, Schneer was less than complimentary about him, that he, wasn't really athletic, and his accent kind of came and went, which is true, but I think he's perfect. I think they made a huge mistake in the next movie when they recast Sinbad. I don't know if there was a reason why they couldn't get this guy.
Remind me who they recast.
It was Patrick Wayne, the son of John
Wayne's son.
Yeah. And he seems like a very nice guy, but just was not able to project that sense of that charisma that Law was. And I don't know, Law seems like he should have been a bigger name, because he was one of the better things in Barbarella, which is not a movie that holds up all that well. And he was fantastic in Danger Diabolic. Just terrific. That's a movie that has held up, in my opinion.
Although, but most people in the 70s, unless you were into Italian film, didn't know about that. And Barbarella was all about Jane Fonda. So
absolutely. Right? So,
but in '79 he did an Italian exorcist film called Ring of Darkness.
Oh wow!
Which I am just now learning about.
I've never seen that.
Yeah,
I wonder if we can find it.
He's the exorcist.
Oh,
so I now have this suddenly just shot up my must-see list.
And I think he did, maybe Jeff knows, he did a bunch of Westerns. Was Death Rides a Horse or...
Well, I'm looking, I'm trying to remember. Oh, the thing I remember from is Von Richthofen and Brown, which is a Roger Corman flick, I believe. A departure for him, a normal storied movie. And he plays Richthofen.
Awesome.
Anyway,
what else can we say about Carolyn Monroe? There's your sweaty cleavage at the top.
Thank you. Hold on, let me get back. Yes, there we are. Oh, but I mean, look. Besides the fact that she's ravishingly beautiful, nothing you can say. Look at that shot. Look at the colors in there.
Yeah.
The use of colored gels.
Her costumes are awesome. I thought on this, and not just totally
right.
Yeah, you're talking about G-rated sex appeal. You're right, because they expose enough, but yet they're not. They're not too. I don't know the word I'm trying to say here, but they're not offensive to moms bringing their kids in.
Well, they're not rubbing it in your face. Right. Darn it!
And nobody on the ship treats her like a sex object, and Sinbad has to smack him around or anything.
Right,
they're all respectful and.
Which is unique for a pirate ship. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Tom Baker. Because
Russians are coming. I'm sorry. I just spotted that. That guy was in that.
You're talking about John Philip Law?
Yes.
Okay.
Is Tom Baker having fun or what?
Yeah.
Oh, he's getting the most out of this role. Definitely. Now, of course, we've seen him in a few horror films in the 70s, Vault of Horror. One Freakmaker is another.
That's right.
Yeah. You guys did that when I was gone. Mutations, I think.
Mutations. Yep.
He's got great eyes, and they use the eyes really to good effect here. Like when he brings the siren to life, they have the close up of his eyes. Then he fades out, but his eyes are still there, and it's like, yeah, he's got that maniacal look. I mean, he's I guess you could say he's overacting, but it works for this film. So it's not overacting. It's the right pitch. He's a cool villain, and you need a good villain to legitimize Sinbad. I mean,
you do. Yeah.
At the end, when he's sword fighting, I mean, we've established Sinbad's a sword fighter among sword fighters, but Koura doesn't seem too worried. He's young now. He's got all of his strength back. He's got the wisdom of age with the strength of youth. Oh, and also a cloak of invisibility. So yeah,
that's a good thing to have.
He's got no doubt he's going to win this, and he would have won it if he hadn't dicked around so much and prolonging the terror. And that's a classic blunder of supervillains. Is
And he was was he the fourth Doctor? He was the fourth Doctor, right? Do I have the right number?
And I hope so, or we're going to get a lot of letters.
We're going to get a lot of crap. That's the Doctor Who I discovered because they would show it on PBS, right? And 173 episodes.
Yeah,
173 episodes until 81, right?
Yeah. In that scene you were talking about, I kept thinking all Sinbad has to do is like throw a bucket of water on him or something, and he'll be able to see him. But no, he doesn't even have to do that. He just walks in. He
jumps into the water himself. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, the fight went that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess. All right, let's talk about Christian.
Yeah, and it's funny. I wish I could find it now. I got an email from someone who likes our podcast and mentioned that he had just done an interview with Mr. Christian. And
nice.
Yeah, so I listened to the interview. It was very good, and he talked about having a good time. And I guess they must have liked him a lot because he's in the next Sinbad movie playing a different character, playing an evil character. He switched sides.
Was that Stephen Turek?
Who? I think it might have been the who sent me the letter. Yeah,
he does a lot of reviews or interviews, and he said this stuff. We have him as a guest on Classic.
Good.
We like you said, we just did him not too long ago with Horror Hospital, which was one of my choices, and I didn't even recognize him. So
there you go.
What the heck? Right. What the heck?
But he looks like he's having fun making this, and I would have had fun making this, man. Get to go exotic locations, hang out with Carolyn Monroe, talk to Ray Harryhausen. Dream come true.
I love when he comes out onto the deck of the ship, and he's like, "Where am I? What happened?" He was because he was so drunk, he has no idea.
Okay, joke's over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go around for a couple hours, take me back home, and they're just looking at him like,
nope.
This is the most entertainment we've had on this ship.
I like that the guy sold him to go. You gotta go away. You gotta take my son away. Oh man, it was hilarious. And then we got this guy, who we get three versions of him. Right? We get for the most of the film, he's walking around with the helmet on.
He's Phantom of the Opera, or he's Dr. Phibes, or he's I guess Muslim Santa Claus at the bottom there.
Yeah. He looks like from another film. It looks exactly the same. I'm trying to remember what film it is.
I know what you're saying. That shot at the bottom reminds me of something else, but I thought that was kind of a weird scene where it's like, take off your mask and show him your face. I'm like, wow, douchebag, but it worked. And, the green guys had never seen that before.
He looked more like the humans from
Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
I couldn't get there from here, but thank you.
You're right.
So so what an amazing film. This was so much fun.
Yeah.
So
much. He was in Jason and the Argonauts as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was. Was he the? What did he play? I wonder.
Peleus.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, he was younger, but then weren't we all?
Anyway.
Now, Jeff, you mentioned the cinematographer for this has quite a few credits to be proud of.
Yeah. There's two people we ought to mention in this crew. One, the cinematographer, Ted Mohr. He did a buttload of James Bond movies, starting with Dr. No And then also Day of the Triffids, and he won an Oscar for A Man for All Seasons. So this guy's no slouch as a cinematographer. And then the music composer won 3 Oscars and was nominated for 9 other ones. And he won for 2 of the ones he won for were Ben-Hur and Hitchcock's Spellbound.
And he did.
They wanted him for this because he did the score for Thief of Baghdad.
And I like the score for this movie too. It's got that cool Middle Eastern quality to it, And again, it's one of those things that just adds production value. When you've got a fantasy, that's not where you break out the synthesizer or the modern rock music or anything, unless you're trying to be ironic or something. I mean, you want that lush score, old-fashioned Hollywood. I think it just works better.
Well, I was reading about him. He used a theremin in Spellbound and another. He was actually nominated for 2 movies the same year, and I forget what the other one was. Spellbound and another one, Lost Weekend, I think. And then quit using it because he was afraid he was going to get stereotyped.
So I take it back. I love the theremin. I love when I hear a theremin. I love the story of the theremin. Everything. A guy invents an instrument that anyone can play, and anyone can play. It's just that only a few small select geniuses can play it in a way that doesn't sound like a monkey trying to tune an AM radio. Right? Yeah. So
before Tom Baker was cast in the role as Koura, they were looking at Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that I would have been afraid for Sinbad from the get-go. Boy, even old Christopher Lee could kick your ass.
Well, he wasn't old. I mean, well, he was, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't
old.
Yeah. No, but I mean, he would have been old in the movie because
he
keeps doing sorcery. He turns into old Christopher Lee, cuts a heavy metal album, wins a couple more awards, and kills you with a sword. So
goes to Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, does Star Wars and Lord of the Rings when he's Now we teased Robert Shaw.
Yes.
At the beginning, and we didn't say anything about Robert Shaw the entire thing. Okay, but we did say, that they're trying to find the Oracle of the Truth or something like that. I forget what it is, Oracle something, and the Oracle of all knowledge. Yeah, that's the same thing. Same
not
thing.
Not just some like the other Oracle.
All knowledge, Oracle, and he plays that character. Of course, he's all made up, and they tuned his voice, right?
You can still tell it's him though. If you know it's him,
if you know it's him, you can see it. But I bet if you didn't know, I didn't know until this was new to me. I was like, "What? He's in it." Mm-hmm. He did 20 minutes of work, was paid £5,000, but he knew the producer, Schneer.
Yeah,
he was a friend of Schneer's, and so he didn't want his name on it. He just did it as a.
They wanted Orson Welles, but Orson, I know this will boggle everyone's mind, was being difficult. And
can you imagine that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Frozen peas. So
frozen peas. What is that?
Oh, okay. So look up on YouTube. Look up Orson Welles frozen peas ad.
Yeah.
And the best version of it, there's actually an animated version. It's him ball busting these poor guys who are trying to get some commercials out of him. He's hating life, but he's contractually committed to doing this, and it's the funniest damn thing ever.
He's drunk too, right?
Oh, that was the Paul Masson wine thing.
Oh,
the French, and he is so drunk. The French, and all the actors around him are just looking at each other like, oh God, take 27, and he's not getting any more sober. He was a great one though. There was only one Orson Welles.
So one last thing before we wrap up, there was a sequence devised by Harryhausen called Valley of the Vipers, which was going to use real snakes and giant stop motion animated snakes, but the producer, who happened to be afraid of snakes, argued that the scene would upset pregnant women. So of all things, why would that feels like made up shit.
It sounds like Mr. Schneer was projecting at that point. But you know what?
Why just pregnant women?
Pregnant women and horses. It will scare horses and pregnant women. I want to say one thing about Charles Schneer, because he doesn't get enough credit here. The reason why Harryhausen is known as he is because unlike Willis O'Brien, unlike Jim Danforth, unlike a lot of these great creators, he was lucky enough. He was the artist, but he was fortunate enough to find a producer, a money man, a businessman, a guy who knew how to make the movie happen. And together they made these marvelous things. It was a true partnership.
Yes.
And if only Willis O'Brien had found his Charles Schneer, there are so many great projects that he was working on, marvelous projects that never saw the light of day and probably never will. It's just too bad. But the producers usually, if you ever hear about them, it's usually what sons of bitches they were. Schneer seems like a real stand-up guy who understood that he had hooked his wagon up to a unicorn and gave him when Harryhausen maybe went a little over budget, he was not screaming on the doors to cut stuff out and everything. That was a real good partnership, and he deserves a mountain of credit for making sure that these films happened, because it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, because he produced all of them up through Clash of Titans, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking at it, yeah, he's done them all. Awesome. All right, well, we need to wrap this up because we're running out of time, and we also have some feedback.
You think I could talk about this movie for like a weekend or something?
I think we really could. We really could.
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and I think our recommendation is obvious. Go see this. But you're free to add whatever else you want, and then I'd like to hear what scene made the biggest impression.
I recommend this movie. I think you're crazy if you don't go see this movie. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I understand, because for a while it was actually kind of difficult to find in a good copy, and it's not worth watching in a bad copy. But I think this is super entertaining. Is it a little old-fashioned? Yeah. I don't know if kids today will appreciate it. I think they might, but definitely folks my age and discerning people of a younger age, I think, will truly appreciate it. And I gotta say, I mean, the Kali thing, you don't watch a film frame by frame when you should be out, talking to girls and, doing something else. That's how I spent my year 14 analyzing films once I got that projector and the little editor and everything. It was a lonely but rewarding time. So the Kali sequence is just absolutely marvelous.
Yes, I kind of knew you were going to pick that. Yeah. Jeff Mohr, sir, what do you have to say about this film?
No, I'll just repeat what I said at the beginning. This is my favorite one so far. Although I need to rewatch Jason and the Argonauts, and I'm talking about the adventure style. Harryhausen movies, not the monster from So Many Fathoms and whatever. Right. I get all their numbers mixed up. 10,000 fathoms is 20. It's a number that isn't real, but anyway,
it's deep.
It's really deep. But yeah, I think this is really good. I got the when we started doing these, I bought that. There's a box set. Blu-ray Harryhausen one that's got all three.
Nice.
It's got all three Sinbads and Jason the Argonauts and Mysterious Island and I think Earth versus Flying Saucers and something else. So it's a really nice collection.
I think
it's not too expensive, I don't think.
I think I was going to say, I think the Lau film, which I mentioned earlier, I think I was confusing it with the Three Worlds of Gulliver.
There you go. That's that's also on that box set, I think. So
that makes sense.
So anyway, you need to watch this, and I'm gonna, for my scene, I'll go with the siren, because I just for some reason those sound effects and the lighting just made that really impressionable for me.
It's a beautiful sequence.
I'm like, holy crap! Who'd have thought of that? They made the Maidenhead come to life and become a siren.
That was really cool. And how many times have we seen that since? I mean, even even Jack Sparrow had to go up against that, didn't they? I feel like he did. All right, so I had kind of written this film off, Bill. I'm so sorry, but
all right. I
was a fan, like I said, when I was a teen. Didn't become, kind kind of fell out of being a fan for whatever stupid reason. I love this film. This really does hold up. I really like it. And it makes me want to go back and watch all those Harryhausen films all over again. So wow, thank you, sir. My favorite scene, if it's not going to be the two you guys, it's going to be. It has nothing to do with Harryhausen, but it's the fight at the end with the cloak of invisibility, which is hilarious because it doesn't really do all of them at once, and it's kind of funny. But it's the ending of it, and it's just because, like I said earlier, that when the fountain turns red, it made such an impression on me. That's almost what I remember more than the stop motion.
Yeah.
But
sticks with you.
Yeah, and we've seen that many times too. Well, you know what? It also reminds me of Omega Man. You know, at the end of Omega Man when he's there, and you know he falls into that pool and he's got the Christ pose, but now the water's red.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. I must have been like affected by all that when I was a kid. It must have made some kind of impression on me. But there you go. Where did we see this at? I'm trying to remember.
Tubi, I think.
Yeah. It's Tubi. Yeah. Definitely one.
And they have a good copy of it too, so it holds up. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about Tubi is all those stupid commercials. But I was expecting to like be ho hum about it, and I was glued. I wanted to watch the entire thing.
Well, the nice thing about Tubi is the length of the ads is about half of what you get on regular television.
That's true. That's true.
And just the selection they have is just hard to beat.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to put up with some ads.
All right, so that's our review for the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And we share our feedback, which is what we have now, right, Jeff? So what kind of feedback do we have?
We've got a short one from episode 166, The Island of Dr. Moreau, from Wayne McCullough. He says, love this as a teen when it first came out. Still do. So, excellent.
He stands by his original thoughts. I like that.
Yes.
Excellent. Yes. Excellent, sir. Thank you.
Short and sweet. And then we've got a couple from Mikey Z. First one's on 168, Santo and Blue Demon versus Dracula and the Wolfman. Mikey says, first, Bill, great mascarilla. I think he means, I don't know what the actual mascarado. But I think the eyewear might. But I think the eyewear might not be allowed in the ring. Yeah, you had your glasses on.
Well, that was my strategy, that the other luchadors wouldn't hit a guy with glasses. Otherwise, I'm dead.
Missed that. You missed the brilliance of your tactics, sir.
Always thinking.
Also, the sensational El Gizmo.
Yes.
He spotted that tag team there. Third, in the 80s, there was mud wrestling and jello wrestling. But preceding that was that south of the border fascination of queso wrestling.
No, there was not. No way.
So much cheese oozing, but good cheese. All right.
Oh my God.
Nicely said.
Queso wrestling.
And for fans out there that aren't quite getting it, there's no queso wrestling. He's talking about the cheesy goodness of the luchador movies.
You had me for a minute. I was like, what? They wrestle in a bunch of cheese?
I know. Somebody's going to get an idea now. If you want many fun, and the loser has to eat the queso.
Eat the cheese with all the chips.
If you want many fun, head-scratching moments, venture into the world of crime-fighting luchadors. Santo Blue Demon versus Dracula and the Wolfman is the event for you. Besides these two supernatural beings, there are invisible audiences packed to the rafters.
Yes, they
watching 3 actual wrestling matches take place in an actual wrestling ring. This reminded me of the colorful, campy Batman series of the 60s. Lifeless bats, a scene heavily borrowed from Hammer's Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Okay makeups in the prime villains. Outside of Eric, the other hench person's makeups, not so much. Santo and Blue Demon provide much entertainment in fighting various mortals and immortals. I thought whoever dubbed Santo did an excellent job. The others, again, not so much. My favorite scene, when Eric realizes the error of his ways and pays with his life. I tried to keep this under 10 words, but first, not possible for this fun entertainment. Secondly, it's me. I can't say hello in under 10 words. Thanks to Scott Wells for the suggestion. Grue Crew body slammed this one. Need more luchador flicks? Heaven knows there are plenty to choose from.
Oh, yes. We definitely do need to find another
right.
one.
Yeah, so Scott Wells had suggested this to us, and I jumped on it, and then he's thanking Scott Wells as well. Yeah. And then our second one for Mikey Z, Empire of the Ants, episode 170. Grue Crew 70s does Phase 4 and Empire of the Ants.
You better believe it.
You guys must have ants in your pants.
That and bees. That and bees.
Yeah. We got bees in our bonnets, but ants in our pants.
Where's our giant rats?
There you go. Oh, yeah, where's the rats? Up your pant legs, I think. The 4D man meets the 4D man meets Alexis Carrington with slimy Kirk Sr. and numerous morons on a real estate swindle gone wrong.
Oh, wow. That's going to be the name of my punk rock band, Bill and the Numerous Morons.
That should have been the synopsis. After seeing the large insects causing havoc, why does no one walking through the forest or swampland not make spears of the nearby branches? Stupid people die stupidly. Please tell me some humans were hurt in the making of this thing. Bert, meaning Bert Gordon, shame on you. Food of the Gods is an opus compared to this. Wow. Mr. Big's earlier works fared much better than his later efforts. Compare the amazing Colossal Man, the Magic Sword, and his other 50s outfit to this direct. While not expertly produced, those were epics. Yeah. Even that 60s haunting tale, Tormented, was better than this. Mm-hmm. As Bill pointed out, the same bugs on postcards effects are used. The puppet ants are okay, but as soon as you pull back, you lose me. Yeah. Oh, and the ant farts are going to make me slave for you. Okay.
Ant farts. We got ant farts here.
You know, it's funny how so many people play with that. In Bug, you have the flammable bug farts.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that movie. Okay.
All right. I saw this on a midday showing on TV in the 70s, and it did not leave me with anything except the desire to get out a large magnifying glass.
You evil kid.
Chad, nice to see your hometown represented on DOH. Please do better than this on the next pick. Hopefully, you convince the other Grue Crew that other 70s star-studded bugs.
Here we go.
Oh, here it goes. Here it comes.
One of my favorites. Here it comes. Say it with me. The Swarm. Sorry, Bill. For the record, I also love the Monster of Piedras Blancas.
Okay, you're forgiven.
Hopefully, Classics will get a crack at that one. P.S. Trivia. Albert Salmi was, or how did I say that was? Sammy. Albert, like salmon. Albert Sammy was in one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, Execution. Yeah. He was everywhere on TV during that time period. And Brooke Pallant's sister, Holly, was the nanny in The Omen.
Yep.
And shout out to Bert Gordon. He just turned 100 years old a couple days ago.
That's right.
Wow.
And he's still with us. He is still with us.
He outlived the queen. Good for you, guy.
Yep.
And then we have one for moving right along. We have one for Chosen Survivors, 171 from Evil Genius. Yeah. First things first, we need to be using the correct genre metric here. It was the sliding terror scale of monkeys with scalpels.
Ooh, I've almost forgotten.
Note on Cheyenne Mountain and NORAD, that was also where the 1983 classic War Games took place. I did actually see this back in the early 90s on cable. I remember liking it. I have a soft spot for 1970s antiseptic character-driven stories. Also, you mentioned the movie Satan's Triangle. That was also a pretty okay movie. It's worth a watch. Like this one, it played like a TV special with occasional flashes of brilliance, then morphed back into TV form. Satan's Triangle was far more focused than this one, though. And
that sounds familiar, Satan's Triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, Mikey Z, once again, it's a Mikey Z trifecta today on Chosen Survivors. Zaps is not too bad. Mikey Z is Mike Zaps. So he says Zaps is not too bad for this TV movie. Feel, last gasp, disaster, theatrical failure.
Feature. Failures it is.
You're right the first time. Don't correct
For me, the climb is the only suspenseful moment once the twist is revealed. Why they couldn't keep those little winged cuties out of the majority of the rooms is never fully explained. Why not utilize the middle screens to block them from entering? Holes. Not one of the survivors interested me other than the usually right industrialist, Jackie Cooper. Everyone else seemed kind of bland, even though they were the chosen ones. Santos frequently mentioned this as one of those 70s films to be seen, not necessarily good, but to be seen. So that's kind of why we pulled it up. So much could have been made at the end of it all, but again, that didn't really go anywhere. Greater podcast to a film that is not deserving of the time expended.
Often the case.
But we dedicate ourselves to do that often.
Keep being gruesome or groovy and awesome, guys. So thanks.
Gruesome and awesome too. We'll do gruesome and awesome as well.
Appreciate it. Mikey Z, Evil Genius, and Wayne McAuliffe.
Thank you guys so very, very much. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the shows. Chad has our next pick. Unfortunately, Chad couldn't join us tonight. Work took him away from us.
And I'm really sad about that because I think Chad would have liked this too. I would have heard his input here, but real life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah, it sure does.
It does.
Real life sucks. So Buddy does have the next pick. And so Jeff, what is his next pick?
The next pick is The Visitor from 1979, which is an Italian film that stars Mel Ferrer, Glenn Ford, Lance Henriksen.
Wow.
Lance Henriksen, an early role for him,
Sam Peckinpah plays a character.
Wow.
Sam Peckinpah.
Shelley Winters.
What is this, The Love Boat?
It might be.
The soul of a young girl with telekinetic powers becomes the prize in a fight between forces of good and evil.
It's a weird one.
I feel like I've seen this, but I couldn't tell you a damn thing about it. So this is going to feel new to me.
I read a science fiction book called The Visitor I believe it was by Clifford Simak. And I loved the book. And The Visitor was like, it was sort of like some movies that have come out since then, but like there was this monolith that you had to figure out. Not 2001, but anyway. And so when I watched this the first time, I was thinking, oh, cool. They made a movie of The Visitor.
But they didn't. They didn't. They stole the name. All right. Well, that's our episode for tonight. Jeff, Bill, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And come again next time for an Italian horror movie with a creepy girl.
We've done that before.
It never happened.
And an amazing cast. So.
Yes.
Now, is that a good mixture, though? We'll find out next week.
We'll find out. I haven't seen The Visitor, so it's a new one to me.
Oh,
cool. I haven't seen it yet.
Nice. All right. Well, with that, let's say goodnight.
Good night, folks.